All right, so let's move forward and let's hit Zhaitan's logistic capabilities. And for that, I believe we're going to have to go way into ore. Yes, we are. So we had just entered Malcor's Leap when we went and killed the mouth of Zhaitan, which was kind of how Zhaitan was replenishing himself, right? It had this mouth creature. I cannot handle drakes. Leave me alone with your drakes. So we killed this mouth creature that was literally eating like magic via eating magic artifacts, and that was sustaining Zhaitan from a magical perspective or a magical point of view. Um, but there's still the issue, even though we've gone after some of Zhaitan's lieutenants, um, there's the issue of Zhaitan's army, and that's kind of what we're going after now. I'm gonna do something that's like a tiny bit story breaking a little bit, and that's how I'm gonna sneak up through this camp here. So this camp is not yet established within our story. I think we get to that in like one or two more instances. So we'll like Alexander over here, presumably not actually here. So speaking of mesmers, right? Like this is a really interesting character. Very rarely do like mesmer NPCs actually generate clones. Like usually they do like other things, like reflex and stuff. But anyway, there we go. She had a clone. Kind of cool. I also really dig her armor. Like that's they got her in some pretty cool digs there. And it's a combination of like that's human T3, right? The shoulders. This is Order of Whispers. This is like acolytes or something like that. We got a variety of different armors there. All right. Anyway, moving on from the camp that we really shouldn't be in because we haven't actually established it within the story yet. Into the ruins of Ren, where we will begin planning for our assault against the ossuary. There we go. This is actually like I really like this. It's a shame that you don't see this like asset used very much. I would have liked to have seen this. You like this tent made out of like maps or something. I would have liked to have seen it used a lot more. Oh, I accidentally triggered the cutscene. All right, well, here we go.
The goal is to stop Zhaitan's reinforcements. Our target is a Cathedral of Eternal Radiance on Or's north coast. It's essentially a factory that manufactures Zhaitan's horde. I intend to shut it down, and I'm sending in a strike team to do just that. We don't know exactly how it functions, so I'm joining the team to make sure we have whatever rituals are required to get the job done. We'll pick up reinforcements on the way. Commander, you'll lead the strike team and protect me while I perform the rituals. Any questions?
None, Marshal. It's long past time we forced Zhaitan to fight its own battles instead of hiding behind minions. Ready when you are.
All right. So as I was saying before I accidentally triggered that cutscene there, I am not the person to make an assessment or to have an opinion on whether or not this is like actually like an atlas for Tyria. That is like I don't know. There's some, like wooden potatoes or some of the huge lore nerds in the subreddit. Like that's kind of their domain. Um, but it would be worth speculation, especially like one that you can see like super clearly like this. like trying to kind of screen cap that and make an assessment on what's going on there. But not for me. Okay, so again, as has happened once or twice in our story, both the commander, being Traherne, what did you just? What was that? A mouse? Hey, let's go. Both the commander and second command for the pact are going to go on like a, on this sensitive operation, leaving the pact exceptionally vulnerable if something happens to us. And I guess we're okay with that. So, let's shut this thing down. Excuse me. Beyond the fact that this gives us a chance to kind of view the production of Risen and so forth, which is interesting. The other cool thing that we get with this instance is this is actually like a really impressive structure, both open world and within this instance. Like, this is a pretty cool place to be, right? Where you got these various wings. I mean, this is big. This is big. You got different wings out here that kind of come out right there, and then up here, and there's one like over here. And you got these areas between like these spokes created by these ramps, and then you got these areas in between. And there's like siege and stuff in there. It's all pretty interesting, if I'm honest. It just honestly feels like a slow instance, which is why I'm not the biggest fan of this one. At game's launch, this used to be a great place to farm for like the charged lodestones, but that was still like real slow going. The return was still like pretty low on those in terms of like, the drop rate. So it didn't take me but maybe 5 or 6 hours of that before I realized that it was far more effective to just farm gold.
Zhaitan uses his place to craft abominations. Stand by. My ritual will show us how the ancient priests went about their grim tasks. Before ore sank, this was the final resting place of Lyssa's most loyal followers. The deceased were brought here so the officiants could perform the appropriate funeral rites.
Look at that guy's carrying a corpse with one hand. Ghostly Mourner is jacked. It's actually kind of scary looking. Look at that face. Jeez. This is kind of what I was talking about with it being a slow instance. We just kind of... This isn't even like the fighting time in the instance. This is the follow random ghost while it walks like the RP walk all the way up here. Now, it's probably worth kind of running out ahead of that a little bit, because we are going to have to fight these Risen Knights as we run into them while progressing through the story. So while she's taking her time on that long old walk, let's go ahead and just kind of address this real fast. We are using a projectile-based weapon, so yep, there's the problem. The knights will reflect at times. Thank you, Traherne. I love how Traherne like hangs out in the back and then it's like, well done. Thanks. You too, buddy. You too. Alright, so we saw the priestess come up here. Presumably, in order to see the next step of the process, though, we're going to need to kind of clear this area out so that Traherne can do, like... Oh, in fact, here she is. Manifest as... And kind of scary... and also, though, that's quite... I had never noticed, like, that outfit before. Man, we need to get that thing in the gem store. I will 100% buy that. So there are a lot of like assets within, and a few interesting assets within the core story that you don't see anywhere else. I had never really paid much attention to like, look at that, that is quite low rise in the back. To this, I had never noticed this outfit before, and I don't recall seeing it anywhere else in the game after like core story. There's also a wizardy type character that almost looks like he doesn't belong in Guild Wars 2, that pops up like a couple times. Including one of the Ara paths, one of the Ara explorable paths, I think that model. But it only pops up like 3 or 4 times in the whole game, that model. And I don't think it's been used at any point since core.
The loved ones of the deceased played an integral role. Here, they were encouraged to express the pain and rage they felt over the passing. They had to release these potentially destructive emotions before the rites could proceed.
So we get like this whole like anthropology lesson, like from Traherne.
The funeral rites aren't done. I must perform my ritual at each key location.
All right, then let's go, Traherne. Like, don't make a thing out of it. She's jacked too. She's gonna carry this corpse. Like, she carried it all the way down here. Like, what if this dude was like morbidly obese? She would have her work cut out for her, right? Alright. Let's see if we can kind of catch up with Priestess a little bit before this next dude catches us. So when all is said and done, as you progress through this particular instance, you end up having to kill almost all these guys because they just circle the entire thing. But sooner or later, while you're like waiting on like the Priestess here, who's got to come all the way over here, then you run the risk of these guys like catching you. It might almost be. Where did he go? How far behind us is he? Where did he go? Huh. I was about to say it might be worth going back to kill him, but he disappeared on us, which is weird. Because they do just circle around. Not sure why that would have happened unless it bugged. Painful. Painfully long. I kind of regret choosing this one. Like, we would have completely been done with the boat by now. The arc, I guess they call it. That entire instance would have been done by now. It is an incredibly short instance if you, like, just aggressively, like, hack through the whole thing. Like, legit a 10-minute instance. Alright, let's go ahead and clear this off. Is this one dressed the same way? Yep, identical model. Took me 10 years to notice that. Wonder what else I'm missing. Who knows, man? Who knows?
I could outrun a centaur. Feel the fury.
Good job. Good job, everybody. Alright, Traherne, do your thing. What is the next, like, valuable lesson we have to learn about the culture of the Orients of ancient times?
This next step was largely ceremonial, but was observed by rich and poor alike. They offered a valuable gift in an attempt to persuade the priests to resurrect the dead. Naturally, the priests refused, but the act of offering and accepting rejection remained a part of the rite.
So, while I make jokes about like Traherne giving us like
Orders finished.
the lesson here.
There should be only one platform remaining.
God, I hope so, Traherne. Like all jokes aside, that is, when I talk about the strengths of the studio, that is one of the strengths. Yes, this is a slow, almost painfully slow instance. But there is this level of, there is this interesting level of detail here. Like what, these things we're learning about, like that lends depth to the world of Guild Wars 2. And it took work to develop that and insert it into the game, and I think that that work paid off in terms of what it represents for us as players. You have to kind of wonder like where the inspiration for all this came up. Like we have these very specific like kind of cultural concepts surrounding death here being presented by Traherne's like explaining them to us because he's an expert on ore and the ancient Orient culture and all that. But the ideas for that, like the idea of ceremoniously offering a gift, in this world where like death is somewhat flexible, offering a gift in exchange for the return of the dead, and the priest declines it, and then the family acknowledges that they're not going to get their loved one back. Like that's a very interesting concept. Did it just pop into the head of one of the devs one day, or is this something that they like actually researched? Did they look at like various customs surrounding death across various cultures? Like it's kind of an interesting thing.
This is new. Time to do some real damage.
Alright. You ready, Traherne?
Finally, the family faced the inevitable reality that their loved one was gone. Here they were encouraged to mourn and to beseech Lyssa to ease their pain. They prayed to their goddess for relief and to watch over the deceased in the mists.
Okay, so since
Turn
launch,
to the center platform. That's where their rite will end.
since this instance was created and inserted into the game and first played by players, our understanding of the mists has changed quite a bit because we've spent time in it, not just in like the world versus world sense or something like that, but in the they're all going to get wrapped up in combat with not one but probably several of these knights. That's real unfortunate in terms of our ability to move on with this instance. So little things like asking, Lyssa to look over their loved one, watch over their loved one while in the mist, takes on kind of a different meaning now that we have seen not Lyssa's domain within the mist, but we've seen parts of Grenth's domain and Balthazar's domain. And yeah, we're gonna end up getting a whole mess of these. What the heck was that? Outrageous. And my pet to go. What killed me like that? Ugh, gross. I knew those stupid knights were gonna come sneaking around to cause us trouble. Happened at the worst time. Oh well. Wonder if we can just kind of bypass all that by coming up here and triggering the next phase.
Feel the fury.
Doesn't look like it. We gotta get our crew unstuck from the combat they're in. Yeah, it's this one. They're probably all dead too. Idiots, man. Oh, did all these things like pass them by? And they're all laying there dead? Yes. And what was hitting so hard? It must have been the abomination. It must have had a bunch of stacks of what you call it? The buff. This guy's gonna catch us though before I get everyone rested. Oh, thanks for your help, Charn. Douche. Yes. Good. Someone pulled it into combat.
Time to do some real damage.
Alright. Can we please finish this instance now? I swear. Choosing this one was a mistake. Alright. So let's see how this wraps up with Churn. What are we going to learn from this? Because remember, the desired end state is for this to result in us reducing Zhaitan's ability, or eliminating Zhaitan's ability to create reinforcements. Right? So how does this accomplish that? Jahern?
With the funeral rites complete, the deceased moved on to the ossuary. Next, they would prepare and inter the body. Ah, see there? They're taking the body down through that hidden door to the crypt below. That must be where Zhaitan's minions are creating...
Oh, that's right. There's a whole nother leg of this one.
And that's where we need to be.
Yeah, it's probably been like 7 years since I've done this story. Because I always avoided doing story playthroughs. I completely forgotten that. So, we're headed, like, over here, if I remember correctly. Which means we have to run against... Alright, so those three idiots are, like, over there. Along with the abominations walking in front of them now. So, we need this priestess to get over here. And then we need to get that door open, because I know it appears open from here, but I don't think it is. Before they make their way around and hit us again. Or else it's just going to result in a whole bunch more time wasted. But, yeah, I don't even have a Warhorn. Because why would I? Is there like an actual build that runs Ranger Warhorn? I haven't used Warhorn on a Ranger in forever. I mean, I guess there could be. So in the first Guild Wars game, swiftness was like, man, swiftness was like super important, right? because of how you gained access to maps, essentially someone could potentially kind of carry you to gaining access to maps that you otherwise could not gain access to yourself. Kind of had to do with the way like the Guild Wars 1 equivalent of waypoints worked and stuff like that. So it was called running people. Like folks would run other people to certain maps and whatnot. So like the ability to move swiftly for a time, or the ability to ignore damage for a time, was like super helpful for that kind of thing. I would sometimes run places, for myself. Like I never ran other people because I wasn't good enough. That was a disappointment. But I would sometimes run myself places successfully, just to kind of prove that I could, and to shorten the process of getting certain places. It wasn't easy for me though. I was not good at it. Some folks were super good at it. Alright, did we lose that priestess? Did she kind of disappear after going through the door? I think she did. But we now understand where we're headed, so. I thought that door was closed until a certain point. Guess not.
Feel the fury. Time to do some real damage. Feel the fury.
Oh my gosh. Everything about this instance is just massively time consuming. This is, though, like, more interesting in the open world than it is in the instance. Because all of this can be accessed in the open world as well. So it's not like any of this is like some kind of weird space they created just for this story or something. This all is down there if you know how to go about getting there.
Feel the fury.
Okay, so we gotta destroy these urns. I know I was far enough away from Churn that was kind of difficult to hear, but that's what we need to do.
Feel the fury.
So we get this a lot in this game, and it's not the only game that's guilty of this, but it uses like these giant bones to like create aesthetic, right? Like this is almost like pelvic. And of course we got these rib cages, spinal columns here. Get it? Spinal columns. But what did these come from? Like, what is this the pelvis of? What is this the spine of? Something big. But there was a lot of them. There's at least like 8 of them or something. In existence. And that's assuming that Zhaitan recovered the bones of all 8 to build this random structure. And are these not... were these created by Zhaitan or by the Orients? Now, the Orients have access to like absurdly large bones. These are important questions. Like we need answers for all this.
Zhaitan? God, you'll defile it.
You already defiled it when you betrayed Lyssa and desecrated the remains of her followers.
That's right,
Lyssa
Traherne.
is gone. We serve the dragon now. Zhaitan will consume you all. Rise now, wizards. Rise now and destroy these enemies of our master.
Okay, so those like urns were like relevant to the process of creating Risen, but he just told them to rise and they rose. So still, questions abound. Questions abound. That's alright. There's the guy. Let's go after the guy instead of just going after the minions, because
They'll have to hit much harder.
we wanna put this all to bed, so to speak. I tried to get Shroud for a second, then realized I'm not on Necro.
Fall to your knees and wait for the dragon's embrace.
Zhaitan's depravity continues to destroy everything it touches. At least now this place is safe. Well done, everyone.
We've crippled the dragon's spies, food, and troop supply. It's more vulnerable than ever. How do we exploit that?
We advance. I have a plan for a large-scale operation to push back enemy forces and establish base camps right here in Ore. Now that operation can begin. All I need is time to regroup and organize our forces.
All right.
So that all may be
Good job, everybody. I'm proud of each and every one of you. You guys did a great job. So with that in mind, great job having been done. This is where we're going to call it for today. The reason being because the next chunk, this further into Ore, is kind of a whole story arc that lasts for several instances, and then that's going to give way to another story arc that lasts for several instances. So I want to save that for a period of time when I can do that all in one playthrough, and kind of encapsulate those into a few individual videos, whatever's most time efficient. So this does kind of, by destroying the ossuary, we have kind of wrapped up the arc of the eye, the mouth, and now the logistics. We've kind of tied all that together. So this is where we're going to wrap it up. So when we resume, we're going to be looking at how we push from where we are right now, which is kind of like 50% into playable Ore, which doesn't comprise all of Ore, but we've kind of pushed like this. We still have a long way to go, and that's what we're going to be looking at when we come back next time. So I appreciate you coming along with me as we encountered the eye and encountered the mouth, and ultimately shut down Zhaitan's ability to produce new Risen, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you much.